So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on it.
Hey, everybody. We are...
Did it again, Dapper!
You did it again. That's okay.
I did it again. I'm so good at it.
So we got 20 seconds, and then Maddie's going to go for 45 seconds. That's all right. All right, everybody. So we are here for Matt with Maddie. This is episode 4. Maddie and Kent in Alabama. If you saw the thumbnail, it was based on, of course, the famous episode Darmok from Star Trek The Next Generation. Where...
Oh, I'm not wearing I have a sweatshirt from that episode. I'm not wearing it today.
Well, maybe during the intermission you can go grab it.
Yeah, I'm looking around my studio space out here as though it's next to me. It's not. Right. It's inside of my closet.
Right. You don't keep
or
your
somewhere
wardrobe
in the laundry.
You don't keep your wardrobe out in the garage?
No, I should.
Weird. What if you need a quick costume change? Come on.
I know, yeah.
All right, so we are still in with the video The Atheist Religion with Matt Powell. It's been bad.
It's been very bad.
Yeah, Matt Powell just finished... I don't even know. It was nonsensical, and it was like asking what repentance is. And we had a discussion about, like, that's not actually all that hard to define. Like, sure, maybe there's weird edge cases, but, like, it's a pretty basic thing.
Last time we got very upset with Dear Matthew, because I was mad that I understood theology better than him.
Right.
Right? And I'm like, if you're a preacher, that should not be the case. That's not my field. But
yeah,
apparently he hasn't read St. Augustine. I'm not very well read.
Look, are you surprised that he hasn't read St. Augustine?
I mean, no. I haven't read much. I've read a little bit of St. Augustine. I've read a little bit of like St. Francis of Assisi, right? Thanks, high school Bible / philosophy. Right. I'm not well read in this, and I shouldn't know more than he does.
All right. Well, let's go over the rules, because we got rules for this. All right. So
we do have rules.
I do see some newer names in chat, so you guys might not be aware, but we
Hello, new friends.
Yes. But we play a bit of a drinking game on my Tuesday night streams because, I mean, quite frankly, we go after some of the most basic and boring creationist stuff. Like, this is like baby hour creationism, basically. So, first, we take a drink whenever the creationist that we're looking at gets something right without it just being a direct quotation from someone else, right? So if they actually get a point of fact correct on their own, we take a drink. And we're usually pretty darn generous with that one, because otherwise it wouldn't happen. But, I don't think we've ever gone through a Tuesday night where it didn't happen at least once. Although, as time goes, we get more generous, so,
We do get more generous,
We also take a drink whenever it was just so wrong that we kind of had to, because, helps keep the brain from melting. We're talking
air and space levels of wrong.
Yeah. Oof.
You'll know that rule when it comes up. You'll feel the need.
We also take a drink whenever the creationist tells a joke that doesn't land, or tells an anecdote that we're pretty sure just never happened, like it just came straight off of r/that really happened.
Yeah.
Because that happens kind of a lot, actually. Also, occasionally, we will take a drink if one of us bothers to try to predict what the argument's going to be, and then we get it right. And then the last one is that occasionally, there will be some semi-random sound effects that might get played of various kaiju roars. And
Can we have an example?
Maybe? We might be able to. I don't know if there's anyone currently set up for an example.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Sorry. It's easier with Kent with Bent, because Bent is right there, and he can trigger it.
He can trigger it.
But let's see. Also, my channel members, which by the way, that starts at only $1, can trigger drinks with the kaiju emoji, which we have here on the channel. So if you want to do that, that works too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
No,
Gary
I
Devere
can't.
and Icarus just demonstrated.
Cheers. Thank you, team.
And there we go.
So hold on, that's 3? 1.
Well, technically they're supposed to super chat them to get us to drink, but whatever. Because if I just let anytime any member sent a free emoji, it could get dangerous very, very fast.
That's true. This is bourbon.
Right. Which actually, that reminds me, so you're drinking bourbon. I am drinking some more prickly pear gin and tonic. I bought myself a new handle of gin, and I infused all but like, I think, 6-ish ounces of it with prickly pear juice.
Nice.
Yeah, it was very, very
This
nice.
isn't straight bourbon. I'm not that crazy. It would be an old fashioned if I hadn't forgotten to buy oranges at the grocery store.
Okay.
So I don't know what it is without the orange peel.
It's just a fashioned.
It's just a fashioned.
Maybe the old part
But
refers
make
to
it
orange.
fashion. Yeah.
All right, so unfortunately, though, that's all the delaying we can do.
Oh no, I can delay for so much longer.
Nope.
I can. Oh no.
Yep, it is actually time for Matt Powell. Here we go. Now, if anyone can't hear, let me know, because we forgot to test the audio. So,
Stop confusing the gospel. The Bible in John never uses the word repent one time. Yet that's the book where it says, these things are written that ye might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing on him you might have life through his name.
so now he's just complaining about other Christians who preach differently than he does.
I'm also. If you saw my puzzled face, it's because his sentence structure was wrong.
Well, that's a constant here.
Yeah. So I was like, by the exact thing that you said, I think that those words meant the opposite of what his intent was, but we're not going to worry about it. I think his point is that like the book of John only uses the word repent once, and I don't really have feelings about that.
I feel like there are a lot more books in the Bible, though, and I feel like a lot of them use the word repent.
Yeah, and that's usually, I think in the book of John, where the word repent would show up would be in the story of John the Baptist, because John the Baptist was like
So we're talking like in the prologue of John?
yeah, it'd be like in the prologue. But I don't now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if like John the Baptist shows up in John. That might be in a different
I mean, he does in the
gospel.
prologue. The prologue is mostly about John.
Oh, okay. Wait, it's a different John though.
Well, we're talking about the Gospel of John, right?
Yeah, the Gospel of John, but John the Baptist is not the John that wrote the book of John.
Right,
okay.
But he's the main subject of most of the prologue of the Gospel of John.
Yeah,
Is John the Baptist.
Yeah. Okay.
Because like there's the first few lines that are about like the philosophical logos and whatnot, and then it jumps to like John the Baptist.
Okay. So it is the Gospel of John where it's like John the Baptist is like living in the desert, eating locusts and honey, being a crazy prophet guy.
Much like our friend Raw Matthew, who decided to spend a year eating nothing but raw honey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can't do the locust though because he's a vegetarian.
That's rough. That's a good source of protein.
Well, now he's a frugivore, so.
Does that mean he only eats fruit?
Yep. And for a while, he was a monofruitarian, which meant that for months he would only eat one kind of fruit.
That sounds unhealthy.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why numerous people tell him that he looks like he's ill, and then he says, name any physical feat, I'll beat you at it, as his response to that.
Okay.
But we're not here to talk about that Matt this time.
No, this is a different Matt.
Let's hear more from this Matt.
Okay.
Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, not turn from all your sins. We aren't Mormons here, folks. But I better not get off track. I need to stay on track because we're talking about creation.
I'm sorry, just a random we're not Mormons. I'm just going to take a drink because, like, what? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Although I'm going to say
Mormons are very, like, saved by works kind of thing, but I don't know.
Well,
it's...
Here's the thing about your religion requiring you to do good things.
Mm-hmm.
It generally means that you do good things, and I'm a fan of people doing good things. So I don't complain too much when it's like, oh, my religion says I should like help out the poor or stop stealing or something. It's like, yeah, no, you should.
Yeah. So like my main problem with like Mr. Powell here, and you know, just things that I've rumors. I've heard of him. You know what I mean? I don't have anything confirmed, but it definitely seems to be that he's kind of in the I can do any bad thing I want as long as it is in the name of, like, it's a ends justifying the means kind of thing, and that really bothers me. Right? It's kind of that, like, lying for Jesus sort of thing. Like, oh, if I do this bad thing, it evens out if I, like, turn someone to Christ. It's like, no. Like, let's be concerned with our own behavior first, you know?
Yeah.
And how we treat others first.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's repent of your sins, people, man. They're and you know what? It's just about every apologist.
Remember when
there.
he was pretending to
And
talk
it's
about
frustrating.
atheists?
It really frustrates me.
I like when he says it's every apologist out there. What that means is all of the people who spend their life being professional Christians don't agree with me.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the stance that you want to take, okay. But
okay, bud.
I'll be honest. I'm not here telling you Christianity is true or false. But if I wanted to find out what Christianity taught, and all of the professional Christians, because that's a thing, you know, there are people whose job it is to know about Christianity, and they all disagree with this one guy who thinks that there's air in space and that's how the sun burns. I'm gonna go with those guys as to what Christianity teaches, not this guy.
Ooh, another thing that I've learned from watching reviews of Matt and Kent do Whack an Atheist things.
Oof.
Kent thinks that the only type of oxidation reaction is iron oxidation. He thinks oxidation means rust.
What is fire?
It's a great question. Anyway.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was...
and did Matt give him any pushback on that? Or did Matt
just
just
go with... not. Yeah.
I'm going to have to take a deep breath.
It's that video with the two of them when they're wearing the red.
Oh my goodness, that was
t-shirt.
So cringy. I couldn't watch it.
It was so bad. It was so bad. No, I watched I've watched a couple people's reviews of it.
All right,
because I don't like it.
We have a $2 super chat from Vandali 1998 who says,
"Thank you, Vandali 1988."
So is this from before he became Ken's new son? Yes, this is from before that. I downloaded it before that happened. Yeah. So. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but you know what? Steve better watch out because
watch out, Steve.
Matt's got that pretty face. Steve might be out of the job of rumored doing naughty things with Kent. Oh, if you haven't heard that whole thing, just stay on afterwards. We'll go into it.
All right.
I'm not going to get into it now.
You say, well, why are you angry? The Bible says, be angry and sin not.
Just be angry all the time. That's what we're supposed to do. Just be enraged.
I feel like there might be some context to that.
I like context. It's it matters. Context matters.
So this is apparently from Ephesians 4:26, the King James Version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just open up Ephesians 4.
Okay.
And let's see what, like maybe verses 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. There we go.
Yeah, let's have a little context.
So let's see. Be renewed in the spirit of your mind. This is starting with 23. Be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that ye put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. Wherefore, putting away lying, speak truth with speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Neither give place to the devil. Let him that stole steal no more. So, okay, first of all, this whole section is about repenting.
Yeah.
Second, that second part of that verse, the second part of 26, let not the sun go down upon your wrath, means, okay, you can be angry, that's fine. Don't sin, and don't go to bed angry. Get over it.
Yeah, okay, sorry. The old, the 1600s verbiage there was confusing me. But it's saying, it's okay to be angry. That doesn't have to lead to bad behavior.
Right.
Deal with your anger.
And it's also saying explicitly, hey,
and don't go to bed angry.
If the day comes to an end and you're still angry, you need to get over it.
Yeah.
So that's almost exactly the opposite of what Matt is saying is what that section of the Bible says. Big shock.
Turns out context matters.
I'm just going to take a drink for for Matt getting the Bible exactly opposite of what it actually says. And TooManyDemons323 asks a question that I'm not going to read out loud, but I'm just going to say yes.
I can't see chat, so I'm just going to sit here and smile.
I mean, anyone who pays enough attention can actually read the chat on screen because it's in the video. But I'm just going to say yes.
So they say, well, it's so degrading to think that, God created us. Okay, well,
Who
let me
said
ask
that?
you, Mr.
Okay, I've heard a few people say that, but I don't think that's just the general position of atheists. Although I did notice that with absolutely no segue, we're now back onto atheists.
We're back onto atheists. Yeah.
After a weird
we can't
little...
just go train of thought there, friends. Like,
the thing is, he has notes.
I know.
He has cards. He prepared for this.
I know.
And it's still just a train of, like, a stream of consciousness nonsense.
I know.
All right, well, let's see what else he has to say about atheists, because I'm not, like, I don't have my finger on the pulse of, 21st century atheism or anything.
Yeah, no, neither do
I.
Any
other religious or a-religious community, for that matter, really. But I feel like that's not the standard position for atheists.
Right. Is it morally acceptable to own animals?
Okay, guys, here we go. We're gonna put in you're gonna be able to see this. So, oh wait, here we go. We're gonna put in a poll. Ready?
Is it morally acceptable to own animals?
Acceptable, yeah. To own animals, and then there's a yes and a no.
I own 2 dogs, so I clearly have a stance on this.
I own 2 geckos and somewhere around 1,000 mealworms that I intend to feed to them.
I had to pull a tick off my dog today. That was kind of gross.
I tried to once pull a tick off of my niece.
Ugh.
We ended up just going... Well, she ended up going to the hospital. I didn't take her. Her father did.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, it's my niece.
No. Sorry.
I'm not taking the kid to the hospital.
Hello. I grew up in rural Oklahoma. The concept of going to the even just the doctor for a tick, that's what blew my mind.
Oh, yeah. Well, so here's the thing. It was buried in her ear.
Oh, okay.
So if it would have been like on her leg, then we just, would have grabbed the tweezers, pushed against the proboscis and pulled. But like, it was dug into like her ear.
Oof.
Yeah, like in there. So we were like, let's get a professional to do this.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Just again, the country kid in me, like, spaced out for a second.
Oh no, if it had been like most locations on the body where you normally get ticks, it like wouldn't have been a big deal. But it was like,
gotcha. Ear, and especially on a little kid.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about like the outer ear. Like it was in the ear. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Anyway, now that we've grossed everyone out with tick stories.
Sorry. My puppers are so good.
Aww.
They're such good boys.
All right, here we go. Okay. Someone said use the potato chip. Leeches come right off. Oh, well, yeah, leeches will come off with a potato chip, but ticks will not. Because ticks have that relatively non-porous exoskeleton that has the waxy cuticle and whatnot, so salt's really not going to dry them out. Here we go.
Are people animals?
Yes.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing, right? Okay, I know where he's going. He's going slavery. I'm just going to take a drink for it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Not all animals, under most ethical systems, have equal moral standing, right? So there's a reason that we're more concerned with the welfare of things like dogs and cows and monkeys than we are with ticks and leeches and mosquitoes. For one thing, animals that are directly harmful to humans, I mean, they're our enemy. We treat them as such. I'm on record as being pro-extinction of mosquitoes as a taxon.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they all just died, yay, that's good as far as I'm concerned.
I grew up enough in enough of like a rural suburb that it wasn't uncommon for like farm kids would keep a shotgun in the back of their truck, right, to deal with packs of wild dogs because they'll take down cattle.
Yeah.
Or coyotes, right? Like, and those are even dog adjacent, but they'll eat your cat and your small dog,
Oh, yeah.
or your run down your cattle, like, so no, so like, yeah, no, not all animals have the same moral standing.
Right.
And generally as a society, we've agreed that like killing other humans is bad
By
and
default,
immoral.
yes.
Yeah, by default bad.
Yep. There are some exceptions, but yeah, by default, bad.
Right, like there's obviously like in defense of self and others, like right, there's like
Yeah.
but still, like, you would feel the weight of, say, like like let's say you were being attacked by like a wild dog, right? Versus you were being actively attacked by a person trying to kill you.
Yeah, I've been
right?
much less hesitation to kill a dog than a human.
Right. In both those circumstances, like, there is more moral weight to having to like kill a person in self-defense versus a wild animal, or versus an animal. And like even if we would say that like in that circumstance, like, you're justified in, but like it's not just because we recognize that like humans are mammals and apes,
Right.
doesn't mean that like you don't value life or you
Right.
don't value other people. Like, and that's like, it seems like,
Drink.
cheers. That feels like such a sticking point with some like young earth creationist folks of, well, it's like the weirdest slippery slope fallacy. Like,
Right.
well, if this is true, then all of this nonsense, you have to accept all this nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm just like, but why?
If evolution
like,
is true, then slavery and murder is a-okay. It's like, no, that doesn't follow.
like, sure isn't.
No,
but,
that's not how anything works.
not how any of this
And
works.
actually, I will say there are non-human animals that I'm uncomfortable with the idea of humans owning, like other apes, cetaceans.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not even super comfortable with people trying to own most corvids. Because
Help me out. What's a corvid?
corvids are animals like crows, ravens, magpies, things
Okay.
like that. Because overall, they're about as smart as apes are.
Okay.
Crows
Yeah.
have technology. They have culture
Yeah.
and technology.
I have feelings about like gorillas being in zoos.
Yeah. Now, I recognize the valuable conservation efforts that some zoos go through.
Yeah.
And that might be one of those things where, like, those benefits might be sufficient for me to overcome my kind of icky feelings, but, like, keeping chimps in labs for inhumane tests, then no, not okay with that.
I don't feel great about that.
No. So it turns out that, yeah, not only does being an animal not mean that you have no moral standing, recognizing that humans have things in common with animals actually makes me extend parts of the moral franchise that I might not otherwise do to other animals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even very comfortable with elephant captivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of animals where I'm like, I actually question the morality of keeping these animals. However, animals in general, is it immoral to own a dog? No, it's not.
Well, because also, like, I guess I own my dogs in the sense of, did I pay money for them? I know I didn't even pay money for them.
Well, if someone were to injure or kill your dogs, the crime they would be guilty of is destruction of property.
Right. Yeah. So I guess in a very legal sense, I own them, but like I'm responsible for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's another thing. I think that ethically, animal ownership comes with ethical responsibilities of proper care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, there's. Let's hear what Matt has, because he's just going to go straight to slavery.
Okay.
You know it.
Yeah. He's gonna go no nuance.
Okay.
Charles Darwin thought it was okay. Charles Darwin, the founder of your religion, taught that it was okay to own animals. The title of his own book is, the original title, by the way, is The Preservation of Favored Races in the...
Okay, so first
Words
of all,
change, and Charles Darwin was a known abolitionist.
Right. He was against slavery.
He was like progressive for human rights for his time.
Right. By today's standards, he'd be a racist.
Right. But by the standards of his time,
he was incredibly progressive.
Yeah. And races in that context meant species. It was a synonym.
It was basically a synonym for species. There were also times where, like, domesticated cultivars could be called races. So it was a little ambiguous. It was less of it was less well defined than species, which already isn't super well defined. But yeah, it did not. Okay, I can't say it didn't mean races of humans, because Charles Darwin probably would have recognized races of humans, but it was not restricted to that. Yeah. So you could talk about races of cabbage or races of pigeons, which he did in that book.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so that phrase, preservation of the favored races, is a descriptor, like an 1800s appropriate descriptor of natural selection.
It's like semantic drift is a thing.
Yeah, it turns out. It's like
Weird.
a thing.
Well, a word doesn't... Which also, by the way, is connected... This is somewhat unrelated, but it's also connected to the fallacy of argument from etymology. Pointing out that a word has a particular etymology doesn't actually tell you how the word should be used today.
Right. But also, Matt, I'm pretty sure is a KGV onlyist, so I think he is against the concept of the meaning of words changing.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
I think he rejects that as a concept, which is very silly.
Yes. Well, KJV onlyism is pretty silly.
Oh, it's very silly.
Yeah. I've actually had Cindy Lincoln make like 3 hours worth of responses to my mild criticism of KJV onlyism, and I don't know if I want to respond to that at all, but I might. I don't know. Anyway, here's Matt.
That might be... I might just point her to various like Christian resources on that. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. She's someone who's got like Gail Riplinger in her phone contacts.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Oh, she's like the OG KJV only person.
Okay. But I mean, like there's plenty of like Christian, like in the apologist world. So people that you and I like, that I would disagree with vehemently theologically, but like, you know, we could both agree that like KJV onlyism is silly.
Yeah.
You know? So
actually, I do have a few Christian names that might work there. I'm going to end this poll, by the way.
Yeah. So I bet there's folks that have put up things that like are coming from a space that she could hear.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Because I fully recognize that like where I am in my like deconstruction of my faith and like what I believe in all of that is, you know, I doubt I'm much at a place, you know what I mean?
So, by the way, I ended the poll, and with 32 votes, is it morally acceptable to own animals? Yes at 84, no at 15%. And I'm going to say that while I don't actually think... Actually, I know that my audience is not an audience of just atheists. It is generally an audience of who Matt's talking to, which is people who accept science. Yeah, and so, yeah. So there you go. But, okay, hold on. We have to make a new poll, then, in that case. So here's the new poll. Is it morally acceptable to own humans? So if there's a big disagreement between these two polls, then we know that it doesn't actually follow and that not everyone actually takes the stance that Matt takes here. So here we go.
Struggle for life. You know what that tells you?
What does
that
it
he
tell
was
us, Matt?
favoring certain races.
I'm taking a drink. Okay, it was nature that's doing the selecting. The whole book was about his idea of natural selection, in which people aren't choosing what persists into the next generation, although he did use selected breeding as like an example. The whole thing was nature.
Right, in fact, no conscious entity. Right, I think that's such a hard thing for a lot of folks to wrap their head around, is the idea that evolution has no end goal. Right. Humans weren't the goal.
Yeah.
Like there is no natural
Dinosaurs were the goal, and then it got screwed up.
No, but like that natural selection and evolution, those things, there's no goal, right? It's just a response to forcings. A response to forcings with billions upon billions of creatures, right, that different forcings are acting on, and so all of those little critters are going to respond in different ways. It's not conscious, it's not with intent, it just is. And
it just,
and that's okay.
The idea like, that well, here's another thing. By virtue of having persisted, according to Darwin's theory of natural selection, all human races have been favored because they currently exist.
Absolutely.
Now, groups of humans that may have gone extinct, which we do know of, there are some human groups that have gone extinct. Those wouldn't be favored, but not because Charles Darwin hated them because they
Right.
couldn't adapt to their environment sufficiently well before they went extinct.
Yeah.
So here we go. Let's get a little bit more Matt in.
And that's the person that they say the Bible promotes racism. No, it doesn't. The Bible says we're all of one blood. All of
Okay, look. The Bible has successfully been used to both defend and attack racism.
Mm-hmm.
I actually tend to agree with Matt that it is harder. It's a bigger stretch of the text to get explicit racism out of it than it is to get explicit anti-racism out of it. And I would point out that basically the only time people really tried very hard to get racism out of it was to justify the Atlantic slave trade. And that was a historical moment in a section of the Christian world. If you go outside of that historical moment and outside of that area, you generally do not find Christians making those arguments. So I do think that the more natural reading does tend against racism, at least if you get to the New Testament. There's some question about, like, you know, rules for non-Jews living in Judea and Israel and whatnot. And we can have that conversation.
Right. We can have that conversation at a different time. But, like, if you are not a biblical literalist, right? If you don't need, if you allow the Bible to be a book, right, and not worship it, right? If you allow it to be a book that's like a record of people throughout history, and their understanding of the divine, right? That's the broadest sense I can be. Then you don't like. Sorry, I've got a tangent on biblical literalism and why it's dumb. And so many people, I think, want to just, I just do what the Bible says, you know, and like, well, that sounds like a great excuse to turn off your brain and not like think about how what you do affects other people.
And
so
it's
let's start
also
by thinking about how what we do affects other people.
It's very likely that then the Bible will tell you to do what you wanted to do anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's actually do the hard work and figure out how to be good humans.
Take a drink.
Cheers for Kaiju.
But yeah, and by the way, to take the whole if you at least get through the New Testament, it's hard to get a whole lot of racism out of there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why basically every church that ever spread to a new location ended up canonizing saints from that location and those races. Like there are like both the Orthodox and the Catholic Church have like Sub-Saharan African and East Asian and Native American saints almost as soon as they started having missionaries there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually been to a church in Washington that was named for a Alaskan Native saint.
Oh, that's really cool. At the Episcopal Church that in the before times I would go to, it's named after St. John, but they explicitly celebrate a couple saint days that are for Native folks.
It's actually not very hard to find Native American saints if you go looking.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway. It's not super relevant, but here we go.
of us are of one blood. Red, yellow, black, and white, they're all precious in his sight. And I'm...
Because I get my theology from children's songs that are just a little insensitive these days.
Yeah, look, I don't think that song was written to be insensitive. However...
No, it was intended to be inclusive. It's aged like milk.
Right. It's, look, there's this thing called the euphemism treadmill. Basically, people invent a euphemism to stop saying the offensive thing. But then people just start using the new euphemism in the old way of being offensive, and then it becomes a new offensive term. That's why since, the end of, I guess, slavery in the United States, there's been, 8 different ways that are the way you're supposed to refer to what we now tend to call the African-American population of the United States. And, yeah, there's almost certainly going to be a new one that comes up.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Oh, and yeah, Silver Harlow points out that Matt would not consider Catholics to be Christian. That's a good point.
That is true.
But he probably would accept that they tend to tend to be fans of the Bible overall.
No, actually, I doubt he would accept that.
Okay.
So that's a thing in more evangelical, and I know he's specifically fundamental Baptist, independent fundamental Baptist.
Yeah, he's IFB.
But that
actually, I think
falls
he's
under
NIFB, which is the...
I don't think. I don't know. I don't know where that line is.
We'll have to call up Steve Anderson and ask him.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
I have no desire to remember that person exists.
I got invited to his church.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I used to live like 10 minutes away from that church, and I was invited to
Oh,
it.
no.
Oh, yeah. I had a pamphlet and everything.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I forget what I was saying. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, let's just continue with some more, Matt.
Yeah.
Sick and tired of people strawmanning the Bible. Oh, a bunch of goat herders wrote your book. Why are you saying that all goat herders are bad?
Okay, first two things. There's nothing wrong with goat herders. And yes,
Right.
Please stop saying the Bible was written by goat herders. Essentially, none of it was written by goat herders. It was written by things like scribes and priests and a purported physician and things like this, right? It was not written primarily, or most probably at all, by goat herders. And they weren't Bronze Age, they were Iron Age. So if you're the kind of person who says the Bible was written by Bronze Age goat herders, please stop, because you were historically inaccurate in saying so.
That's not a hot take, and it kind of reeks of colonization a little bit, right? Like, less technologically evolved cultures have no value, you know?
Yeah. Now, if you want to call them superstitious, I'm not going to stop you, because superstition is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
You can't call them illiterate, though. I've heard that, too, because if they were illiterate, then how the heck did they write the book?
How did they write it? That's a great question. Yeah, that's... yeah. All right.
Stop pretending that the people who wrote the Bible weren't what they are, and I'm going to take a drink, because it's weird to me that I kind of agree with Matt on that point.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually drinking there for the irony of he's tired of people strawmanning apparently his position. That's delicious. That's delicious to me. It nourishes my soul.
This is the man who thinks that the sun is literally a ball of fire that needs oxygen to keep burning. Which,
honey, what does he think is burning, Dapper? What does he think is on fire? Does he think the hydrogen is burning?
Maybe he thinks it's coal.
Oh, no.
I mean, if God wanted to, he could put a lump of coal in the center of the solar system.
So God is just Krampus.
I mean, yeah. Look, Krampus is my favorite Christmas horror movie, which is a subgenre in horror. So
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I've actually seen that one. I don't really like horror, but my husband really likes horror, so now I've seen a lot of horror.
So what you're saying is I should do Star Trek watch parties with you, but then I should hang out with your husband and watch horror movies.
Yes, he would like that immensely.
Okay, I probably would too. Anyway, here we go.
And number one, Paul wasn't a goat herder. He was a scholar.
That's true. Let's take a drink.
Actually, yeah, true.
Yep, he was basically reasonably well off, at least early in his life, and he seems to have been sent to like actual like Hebrew school and learned Hebrew and learned the Hebrew scriptures pretty well. And then sure, later in life he became a destitute itinerant preacher, but you know.
Well, right, but like here's a thing about Paul that I don't think Matt would like to be reminded of, is that before he changed his name, he was Saul, right? And Saul was a violent religious extremist from the Middle East.
That's true, he was. So was Saul the guy who turned his name into Paul, if we're being fair.
Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. That's Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy that wrote most of the New
King
Testament.
Saul.
Oh, no,
Who was also a bit of a violent and religious extremist.
I was referring to Paul, who wrote a good chunk of the New Testament, right? That Matthew here just referenced. It's like, let's remember his past, and like maybe that can cause us to have some empathy for our neighbors. Maybe?
Nah, okay. Matt's not into that. That's the part of the Bible that Matt doesn't like.
Empathy.
Basically, the thing is,
put yourself in the place of me.
You can get a lot of messages out of the Bible, and for some reason, Matt has decided to go with the worst ones available.
The worst takes. The weirdest, worst takes.
And it's like, this is the kind of thing where I'm like, look, I actually do think that there are people who do successfully get decent morals, but from their Bibles.
Yeah.
But it is also true that if you want to, you can get horrible, horrible morals. For some reason, Matt has decided to go that route.
He has, yeah.
So shut your big mouth.
Needlessly combative, but okay.
Nah, he wrote over half the New Testament. They say, well, I only believe in what I can see. This is where you get to
Nope,
Pastor.
sure don't.
Yeah, I've never said that. I'm just gonna take a drink.
Never said that. Yeah.
Okay.
Science deals with things that we can like test and measure and observe, right?
But not necessarily see.
Not necessarily see. So if he's like,
instruments are for.
Right, that is what instruments are for. Like we can't see gravity waves, but we can measure them with very sensitive instruments. We can't see that there's a low pressure system moving over an area, but we can measure that with a barometer.
I can't see a neutron, but I sure heard one from a neutron detector once.
Yeah.
Just one.
We can't. This one, that's good. Neutron radiation is terrifying.
Oh yeah, you don't want. If you're hearing a lot of things from your neutron detector, it's time to leave.
You're gonna die.
Yeah.
But like, and this is like the word believe is malleable. And so, there's no real belief is required in science, right? It's like accept the preponderance of evidence, right? We have to use the word believe to mean that, right? Like I believe in climate change means I accept the preponderance of evidence that human-caused climate change is a thing. Anyway.
By the way, Robert Madewell says that camels are not artiodactyls and rabbits are ruminants according to the Bible, and I'm going to actually contest that that's probably a bad take on that. So,
okay.
First, artiodactyl. So first, when it comes to camels, the idea is that they don't have cloven hooves, and the thing about camels is that unlike other ruminants, which by the way, it's specifically ruminants are supposed to be the clean animals, is the camels actually don't walk unguligrade. So while they have things that are homologous to hooves in things like cows, they don't actually walk on them. They use them more like claws. So they're a little bit weird there. The Bible does say that rabbits chew the cud, which is weird because what they actually do is what's called coprophagia, which is eat and poop. Because it turns out that rabbits have relatively ineffective digestive systems, so they eat their poop in order to reprocess those nutrients.
Oh.
So,
my favorite version of Christian classification of animals comes from like the Middle Ages, when there were really strict rules around that you couldn't eat meat during Lent and on like a lot of different days throughout the year, but you could eat fish, and so a lot of things got classified as fish.
Yes,
including beaver.
Yep. Capybara have been classified as fish for religious purposes in parts of Brazil.
Yeah, that's hilarious because people were like, "No, we're hungry. We would like to eat that, please." We're gonna say it's a fish. It swims. It's a fair game.
Fish. Yeah, there you go.
It's a fish.
Also, so McDonald's actually loses money on their fish fillet.
Oh yeah,
and it's specifically there because it was originally intended to give a Lenten option at McDonald's for Catholics.
Huh. Well, I guess that was like in school, like the school cafeteria, we usually had fish sticks on Fridays for the Catholics.
All right, here we go.
Anyway.
Thompson remembers this because we interviewed quite a few of them down there at the ASU. And they're like, well, it just comes down to this. I only believe what I can see. Well, have you ever seen an animal change kinds?
Well, I don't know what a kind is, so I can't answer that question. We're going to take a drink for kinds because it's dumb.
And we also need to take a drink for the fact that Matthew here still thinks that evolution happens at the individual, not the population level.
That's true. Yeah. It's not Pokemon, guys.
It's not Pokemon.
Yeah, your Charmander turning into Charizard is not... I mean, that's what Pokemon calls evolution, but that's not what evolution is in real life.
That's not what evolution is in real life.
Right.
The real world isn't like Pokemon, as much as we would all like to believe that it's safe for 10-year-olds to wander the earth and go explore.
And enslave animals to do combat for them.
Let's not think about those details. Let's just play a fun game with cute animals.
Sometime I want to do
fantasy animals.
Sometime I want to do like a gritty, realistic Pokemon RPG. and it's going to be horrific and dystopian.
My gosh.
'Cause
I think there's a web series about this.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Goodness.
I
Pokemon just gets
forget
worse
what
the
it's
more you
called.
think about it.
Don't think about it too much.
Yeah, well, that's
It's
the
a
thing.
fun
You're
game
not
with
supposed
fun
to think about
8-bit
it too much.
music.
Right.
With cute animals.
Cute animals.
Pretend fantasy animals.
Mhm. Who do not
Yeah.
actually get injured despite the horrific violence they inflict upon each other.
Sure don't. They just
Although-
go back into their little Pokeball until
will say
Nurse
this.
Joy fixes them up.
The trailer for the upcoming like Pokemon game. What was the game with the camera called? Because they're making a sequel.
Pokemon Snap?
Yeah, they're making a sequel, and it definitely has some Pokemon hunting Magikarp. So Pokemon on
Oh,
Pokemon
It is
consumption.
confirmed that
Yeah.
Pokemon eat each other.
Yeah.
That is confirmed.
So there you go.
I believe what I can see, and what I can see is that animals bring forth after their kind. That's what I can see, and I believe that.
Sure do.
Yeah, I'll take a drink for him getting that right.
It's
As long as
not wrong.
As long as we say kind means clade in general.
Yeah. Well, like that's the we're getting into the biology words, which I'm not great at. But again, like a eukaryote has never made a non-eukaryote.
Nor will it ever.
Nor will it ever.
In fact, actually, one thing that's like for some reason the algorithm picked up super hard like a month ago was a book by was it, I think it was C.M. Kozman, or was it Remo? Anyway, it was basically a future history of humanity, and it spans over like 100 million years. And humans turn into all sorts of weird creatures,
Ooh.
but they remain humans that whole time.
Yep. Yeah.
'Cause
A human's
you're
never going to make a
humans-
non-human,
Right.
but the diversity of humans will change over the next 100,000 years.
Even if you end
Yeah.
up being a weird snake-like creature with no arms and like just prehensile toes at the back of your body that you use to smoke weird drugs from,
Yeah.
you're still a human.
It's like a whale is still a mammal.
It's still an
You know?
artiodactyl.
They're still in that word. Artiodactyl.
Those are the even-toed ungulates, everybody.
Ooh.
Like pigs and hippos and deer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jesus said, "Blessed are you who have not seen and have yet believed." So they say, "Well, I can only
You know what? He did say that. I'll take a drink.
believe what I
He
can
did say
see."
that.
Well, have you ever seen a biogenesis?
Or at least it's in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to take a stance as to the
Fair enough.
actual historical accuracy of that passage, but it's in the Bible.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life come from
Historicity of the
non-life?
Gospels is hotly debated amongst people of lots of faiths.
That's true.
Anyhow.
So yeah, but it's in the Bible, so that's close enough for me. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Have you
Who
ever seen
thinks that a rock-
abiogenesis, which he can't pronounce correctly? That's where we're at.
Is going to start life. And number 3, what about the missing links? They say, well,
What about
we're
'em?
still looking.
yeah.
Yet they only believe what they can see with their eyes. Yet the
All right.
I want to have in my pocket the clip from Futurama.
From Dr. Banjo.
Yeah, with Dr.
Yeah.
Banjo and Farnsworth. I want that to appear here.
By the way, the poll, is it morally acceptable to own humans, was no 98% and yes 1%. So we do have a pro-slavery someone in the chat.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Or a troll.
Well, yeah, there is the possibility that it was a troll or even a misclick.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair because you can't really undo it.
But I will say this. If you sincerely said yes, let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's the thing, right? Like, you can spend a good, like, half hour just naming transitional species
Mm-hmm.
and not have exhausted all of them, right? Like,
Yeah.
there are a lot. Now, do we have a transition between every 2 organisms that you could possibly name? No.
Of course not.
No, because this fossil record is spotty. But, like, if you name 2 taxa, chances are I can probably find a transitional species. Let's try it. Go ahead, Maddie. Any 2 animals. Just name a couple.
The gecko friend of yours
Mhm.
that you have, and I don't know, a fish.
Okay, well, I mean, if by a fish, so we have a lot of transitionals going from like lobe-finned fish into tetrapods. So we have like
Okay.
there's this group called the stegocephalians, which are
Okay.
tetrapod-like lobe-finned fish, including tetrapods. And so they
Yeah.
include things like Eusthenopteron and Tiktaalik and things like that, right? And then we get to sort of like tetrapodomorphs, where we have weird things like Acanthostega that has like too many fingers, but it's clearly got 4 limbs, and it's got a fish-like tail, but it's got an amphibian-like head. And then we get into the actual real tetrapods, where we get the first like reptilomorphs and whatnot. And then to connect back, we also have, you know, like basal osteichthyans, which are the fish that have bones. We have some of those too, where it's hard to say, are we on like the lobe-finned fish side or the ray-finned fish side? So, yeah.
Hey, you did it.
Oh, and Robert adds, it says pine trees and elephants. So actually, we don't actually have fossils directly for the basically the kingdom level eukaryote groups. But the reason for that is that here we're looking for single-celled eukaryotes, and those basically don't fossilize. So our evidence there is not fossil-based, and I'll grant that. And we don't expect to ever find a transitional fossil between like plants and obozoans and whatnot. Sorry for all the big biology words.
No, you're good. So basically, like, plants and not plants diverged at a single cell level, and single cells.
Oh yeah, like
don't
like
fossilize.
800 million years ago or something like that.
Okay. Cool.
From Carrie Bronson, who's been a member for 8 months at the amniote level. Thank you very much.
Way to go, Carrie Bronson.
Yes, it is really appreciated. Carrie Bronson says, spend that time listing transitionals and set it to modern Major General or maybe the Wellerman. It would be a smash hit. I would sing it.
Do it, please.
I'll think
or
about
write it down and I'll sing it.
I will think about it. I don't know if
If
I
you
actually
write the lyrics, I will sing it.
All right.
Okay.
It's not a no. That's what I'll say. It's not a no.
I'm the very model of a modern Major General. I've knowledge. Okay.
Okay.
Links are still missing.
No.
They're like,
No.
well, I'm not sure if they're
take a
missing.
drink.
Dude, that's why they're
It's in
called the missing
Futurama, my
links.
guy.
Oh my goodness, that's why they're called the missing links. You do not get to argue that because a common term is missing link, that means that transitional fossils don't exist. That is...
Yeah. No.
Oh my... I'm taking a second drink because I just can't with that one. That is That is like the dumbest take you could have.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness. There's also a reason why scientists don't use the word missing or the phrase missing links. Because
Sure don't.
it sets up false ideas like this one, that we don't have them, but we do.
Because they're missing. They're not there, folks. And you know what? You'll never find them. So let me tell you, Mr. Evolutionist,
Okay.
you can keep having faith in what you believe, which is science falsely so-called, is what the Bible calls it. Go ahead and
It's
turn
not
over
what-
to first.
No. Okay, so it doesn't take faith for me to go to a museum and observe the actual fossils of transitional forms, or for me to go into the paleontology literature and read descriptions of fossils of transitional forms, both of which I have done. That's not faith.
Not faith.
Yep. So
And yeah, and the other thing that, like, that science falsely so called, that's a favorite phrase of Mr. Powell's, which is a great example of, what did you say earlier? Something drift of
semantic
words?
drift.
Semantic drift. Because in, like, what is it, 1611 or whatever, when the King James version of the Bible was finalized, science
1611.
was 1611. So in 1611, the word science referred to general understanding, which is not how we use that word today.
No.
But Mr. Powell likes to quote that bit of the Bible, that in the King James version, that says, like, the science. I don't even know where it comes from, because that phrase, science falsely so called, is only in the King James version, because it doesn't translate to modern English, you know?
Contemporary English.
Excuse me, contemporary.
So remember,
English.
1611 is modern English.
That's true. It's certainly neither middle nor old.
Right. I've read both, and trust me, it's not either of those.
Yeah. I guess my only experience with not modern English is actually like that time we read Beowulf.
Oh yeah, we did do that.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one of my favorite things every once in a while. Sometimes when people like are like question whether or not things can smoothly transition to like great morphological changes, I'll just bust out Beowulf and be like, yeah, that's English. It's completely unrecognizable, but at no point did an English speaker like get born and then just start speaking modern English and all their old English speaking friends couldn't understand them. Like, that's not how that worked.
Right.
We have a couple of super chats. For $2 from Carrie Bronson, make Maddie sing words she can barely pronounce.
That does sound like a fun game.
And from Vandalia 1998 for $2, spoiler for a future Pokemon stream on Top Hats Off. Probably not. So, like, what?
Do a Nuzlocke run.
Okay, so here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
What it takes to actually stream Pokemon is kind of a hassle, because either if I want to do it like the legal way, I have to actually like get like a device to play Pokemon on, and then get like a capture card for it, and then not doing any of that. And I honestly don't like emulators enough to really spend the time to do that, so probably not. I did just get a new game yesterday, though. It was gifted to me.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I got Grime, which is a Metroidvania, and it's actually also a Souls-like. So if you're into either of those genres, check it out, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, if you start throwing biology words at me, like, my accent is going to come out. It's going to be a thing. It'll be very fun for everyone listening and a little painful for me.
Well, that's extra incentive.
I know. And the best part is, so I've been taking at like a local theater, like improv comedy classes to get better at public speaking. And also it's a really spectacular creative outlet. And they just started offering musical improv classes.
Ooh.
So if you guys actually want to see me sing on stage, there does exist a YouTube video of my student showcase, and I'll just leave that as a challenge for the internet. Go find it. Enjoy.
Yeah, actually, for a while, I used to be able to say that my the most popular YouTube video I ever made is actually on a channel that like has my real name on it.
Ooh.
But it's no longer the case, because that one is at like, I think like 8,000 or 9,000 views. But now my most popular video is around like 65,000. So.
Oh, hot damn! My most popular videos is still, I think, under 1,000 views, but that's okay.
You'll get there.
Look, I'll get there.
This was a weird thing where like months later, the YouTube algorithm decided to show it to like tens of thousands of people. I don't know why.
My channel has grown slowly but steadily for the 2 years I've been doing this, and it's my hobby. You know.
All right. Well, here we go. Let's get some more Matt in.
Okay, let's do it.
And then after that, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
1 Timothy 6:20. 1 Timothy 6:20.
You have notes, Matt.
He's called people to open their Bibles.
Right? But also, he has notes. Just put it on your note.
Yeah. Put a bookmark.
Yeah.
The Bible says, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called.
Actually, okay, so here's something. I'm actually familiar with that verse. And it's a verse that if you look at it, it's a little troubling for a lot of people in Matt's theological camp, because it doesn't just say the teachings that were given to you. It actually says the traditions, and it's the same word that like the Catholic and the Orthodox churches use for their traditions that most Protestants don't like. So it's just a fun little verse, because the word science has changed, but also it's really easy to derive from that a theology that Matt would really hate.
Right. And also like that letter, that's 1 Timothy. So I'm not 100% sure, but this is definitely what I was taught. Because I know that's a letter that's attributed to Paul. I know not all letters attributed to Paul are actually thought to be written by Paul, but that was a letter attributed to Paul, written to sort of like a young man, right? Yep. Timothy was a younger dude who was sort of a pupil. He was
Paul's sort of disciple, and he was at the time functioning as the bishop of his local church.
Okay. And so there's a lot of advice in that book that's very like mentor to mentee type of like that relationship comes through really strongly. And so like if you can get a, you know, if you're not just like looking for buzzwords, if you're not just looking for the word science, there's like things that could be learned, right? Of hey, you're in a new leadership position, and you're young and inexperienced. Be careful of people trying to influence you, you know, be careful of these things, which is, or of like, yeah,
instead, the message we're going to take from it here is ignore science.
Yeah, we're going to take ignore science, which takes a stretch. Like, you can only get to that, I think, if you're actively not thinking.
Right. Well, I mean, we're talking about Matt Powell.
I know, but like, you can really only get to that if you are like, I am going to intentionally not think beyond. I'm going to intentionally not think about this.
Oh,
and that's frustrating.
Robert Madewell adds, avoiding profane and vain babblings. That should be a warning against Kent Hovind. Yeah,
Ooh,
spicy, but I like it.
Spicy.
I like spicy food.
Yeah, who doesn't like spicy food?
Look, I mixed sriracha into peanut butter today. I was making a Thai-style peanut sauce.
Okay, I was like, that's immediately where my head jumped to. Was that sounds weird, but if I was doing Thai cooking, that would be okay.
Yep, I put some Thai peanut sauce. Well, it's a
peanut
little
butter,
Thai-style sauce.
It's poor man's Thai peanut sauce.
There was also fish sauce and rice vinegar, and you know, like Anyway, we're gonna take a quick break. And I mean, look, the break video is like 8 minutes, but we're not gonna spend the whole 8 minutes, I hope. So we're just gonna refresh drinks.
8 minutes.
Yeah,
we both need to refresh our drinks.
Refresh drinks, you know, bio break stuff, and we'll be back in just a little bit. So, in the meantime, I'm gonna leave you with the clock that mysteriously runs slow, even though the math said it shouldn't. And I think that might be because of frame rate issues. So, see you in a bit. Hey everybody, we're back with some mochi, but without the Darmok shirt.
Well,
So,
it's in the laundry. I'm sorry.
so Robert Madewell asked a question about Klingons using a base 10 and divide their days into 24 hours. So, according to the Klingon dictionary, Klingons originally had a base 3 number system, but it's a weird base, but it can work.
Okay.
However, the way it was described was actually more of a base 4 system, which makes more sense. But anyway, look, Mark Okrand, who created Klingon, not a mathematician, linguist. So we're going to give him a little bit of leeway. So originally, apparently, Klingons had a non-base 10 system. However, base 10 was sort of like the galactic standard. And when they became active on the galactic stage, in order to make it easier to convert back and forth, apparently they switched to a base 10 system. And then apparently also, they did in fact switch to a 12 or 24-hour clock because they were basically surrounded by the Federation, which was using a 24-hour clock or occasionally a 12-hour clock. So yeah, in Klingon, typically you actually use 24 hours, but I didn't want to put 24 hours on the clock, so.
But in Deep Space Nine, it's a 26-hour day.
That's true, because they were conforming to the day length of Bajor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because remember, in Deep Space Nine, that station was actually owned and technically operated by the Bajoran Provisional Government. Starfleet was just in there as basically hired help to help administer.
Right.
Yep.
It was a joint base scenario.
Right. But technically the final say was Bajoran. They could and did, in fact, or threatened to at least, kick out Starfleet.
No, they kicked out... Wait, did they ever kick out Starfleet?
So Starfleet got kicked out.
They did kick out... Yeah.
I thought it was the Cardassians who did it, though, because didn't they retake the station for a little bit?
Well, right. So there was a point... Okay, so it was right at the start of the Dominion War, right? And Bajor was, like, going to come into the Federation, but Sisko actually was, like... He had, like, a vision from the prophets, and he was like, no, don't. And so the Bajorans were like, we're going to be neutral. So Federation had to leave the station, and it came under Dominion control as part of this like treaty between the Bajorans, like basically a like we're not involved treaty with the Bajorans.
Okay.
Which, since they weren't in the Federation, was the best thing for them to do for their like people. And yeah, I think that's at the start of season 4.
Look, there's a reason why the set for this show is Star Trek themed. Just gonna point that out there.
We're both big old Star Trek nerds.
Right. In fact, actually, off air, Maddie and I watch Star Trek together sometimes.
Yeah.
So we'll go on a Discord call and we'll stream Star Trek to Discord.
Because we're very cool.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have to work on your Klingon though.
I only speak English. I barely speak English.
Klingon is easy. But here's some more Matt Powell, because as fun as it is to talk about Star Trek, that's not what the show is about.
That's true.
Okay, here we go.
So the Bible warned us before science came about that science falsely so-called would come about. And would deny the flood, which we see people do all the time. They say,
I'm just going to drink and let him keep going, because we've already addressed it, but it's still dumb.
We've addressed it. It's fine.
And Christians will say, well, let's compromise a little bit. It was a local flood. Well, you mean to tell me that Noah's going to spend over 100 years to flee a flood that was local to his area? Why wouldn't you just get out of Dodge?
Okay, so this is actually something I went into pretty in-depth on Saturday. However, that stream got... Well, good, because now it's basically gone.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
Did it get demonetized?
It didn't get demonetized. It got copyright claimed. And then they rejected the appeal, and I, thinking that it was only going to be cutting out about 5 minutes, decided to trim out the segment. And it turns out it trimmed out all but 21 minutes of a 4+ hour stream.
Ooh.
So, they've also claimed another video that I uploaded just today. So, by the way, guys, here's a heads up. I might end up having to sue Answers in Genesis.
That sounds like fun. Yeah, I vote you just do a full court press.
Yeah, so...
AIG stuff.
It's possible.
So, hey, super chat, because Dapper's videos are getting demonetized.
Right. First, yes, it is extra appreciated, because yes, my videos are being demonetized by Answers in Genesis. And also, because I might have to do a fundraiser for a legal fund. which I'm not doing now because I currently am not in a situation where I need to sue. But I'm in that realm where it's a consideration. I have to start thinking about, where do I find a lawyer? Do I find a lawyer in Kentucky? Where's their actual headquarters? Things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, any generosity is greatly appreciated, because AIG are a bunch of dicks.
Yeah. Hey, super chat with AIG is a bunch of dicks.
Yeah, there you go. That's true. You know what? If you super chat AIG is a bunch of dicks, I will drink for that.
So will I. I refilled my drink.
There you go.
Their response is, they say, well, it's just so that Noah could show all those people that God was supreme. What's it proving to those people? They're all dying.
Or keep him talking, it's fine.
Okay.
But I'm just gonna.
Doesn't prove anything.
Hear me out. It's a myth and a legend.
It makes no sense, folks. These theistic evolutionists. Hugh Ross. Everybody probably knows who he is.
I do know who he is. His audience does, and I think by everybody, he basically means the people he's talking to, and they seem to. So just because I'm getting so generous with the things that are true, I'm going to take a drink.
Technically true.
Right. The best kind of true.
Mm-hmm. Is that a Navyism? Technically correct is the best kind of correct?
No, that's actually from Futurama.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So there's an episode...
It didn't help that all my Navy buddies were big Futurama nerds.
Well, yeah.
So I get those mixed up.
So there's an episode where we go to the central bureaucracy, and basically the bureaucrat who's trying to shut down Planet Express, it is demonstrated that she did not actually fill out her approval for prom date forms in quadruplicate.
Oh, no.
Meaning that she actually has failed in her bureaucrat duties, and therefore... It basically overturns all of her subsequent bureaucratic work, which saves Planet Express. And the head bureaucrat, who has number 1 on him, because all the bureaucrats have a number, he says, he's talking to Hermes, and he says, "You are technically correct. The best kind of correct." And then he flies away on his flying desk.
Excellent.
Also, for $10 from Gary DeVere, AIG is a bag of 6. I'll drink for that. That was close. I think that's actually a typo. And then Josiah Hansen for $2 says AIG, followed by just a whole mess of eggplants. So I'll drink for that too.
I approve.
And this isn't a super chat, but I'm going to read it anyway, because Smitty then says, "Requisition me a beat." Because yes, in that, Hermes does...
Hermes does say requisition me a beat.
Right.
Yes.
Then he proceeds to rap the entire explanation about the bureaucratic details.
It was such a good show.
Yeah. Oh, man. Futurama
I'm just going to braid my hair, if you're wondering what I'm doing.
Here we go.
The guy needs to get it right. The guy needs to get it. And you know what? He'll probably never get it right, because he's a false teacher. And he's making money. They say creationism is where all the money is. No, it's not.
I mean, talk to Ken Ham. He got millions of dollars to build a fake boat that's actually a building that's built on concrete. It has a concrete foundation, and it has like a service building in the back that's just a concrete box. There's a reason you only ever see one side of the arc. Oh, and Carrie Bronson for $20 says, "Seed money for the legal fund. For those, now for the record, we can't actually type what you asked in Super Chat. It won't let you submit."
The eggplant emoji as a replacement.
Yes, and also I'm going to drink for that Super Chat, because I did not know that.
I clearly didn't know that.
Although I have encountered things like that. One time I was watching someone streaming Total War Warhammer 2, and they were Dark Elves. You can't type the name of the Dark Elf home province or its capital, because it involves a sequence of consonants that involves an N, some G's, and an R. Completely different vowels.
I'm guessing it's not Niger.
Actually, well, no, that would only be one G. But it's and the Twitch is just like, no, you can't type that. And so I had to type like your capital city, whose name I can't type. Also, Cedric Saunders just sent in $20 with a blank super chat, and if there was a message, Cedric, please tell me what it is, and I will read it. And if there wasn't supposed to be a message, then just thank you so much for that generosity. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I'm not at the point where I do need to sue. it is still a possibility. So, you know, if I do need to, I will let everyone know. Here we go.
Every good creation scientist that I've ever known has lost money coming into this.
That he's ever known? Maybe. But no, he knows Kent Hovind. And here's the thing. Kent Hovind eventually lost money on that, but he started out raking in millions. We know.
Yeah.
Because his financials became public record.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call BS on that.
I'm calling shenanigans.
Yeah, okay. We'll take a drink for some shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, the drink triggers have just basically become, I'm kind of thirsty, so I'm just going to call it.
I guess we could give Mr. Powell, one place we could give him the benefit of the doubt is it could be that every creation person he's met has told him that they lost money.
That could be.
That could be true.
Man,
but I mean, like,
Ham must have been absolutely filthy rich.
Right? Yeah. But I mean, Eric and I have both discussed, like, oh my gosh, it would be so much less work to not get our PhDs.
Yeah.
And we would get so much more money to not be grad students and just do creationism nonsense.
Or on the other hand, after you get a PhD, you might not make more money, but it's so much less work to be a creationist PhD. Holy crap.
So like hourly pay, you make bank, you know?
Yeah. Cedric Saunders says, for $5, AIG is a sack of Richards. I'll take a drink for that.
Ooh, clever.
Caleb Scherstad. Hold on, we got to get through these. Caleb Scherstad says for $5, if AIG was a person, they'd be named Richard von Dickerson, Count and High Phallus of Wiener, Germany. All right, I'll take a drink for that. Hot Skull
for that one.
For £5 says AIG is a bag of ducks. I'll take a drink for that too.
Cheers.
Vandalian 1998 for $5 says, but it helped the Starfleet leader. But it helped that the Starfleet leader could talk to their gods for them to side with them. And
That's
now,
true. I do.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I do appreciate the episodes in Voyager when B'Elanna straight up goes to Sto-vo-kor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We just go there.
She gets on the barge of the damned.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Voyager. Okay, look. So Gene Roddenberry was a pretty strong, like, anti-theist guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why so he couldn't be super open about that in TOS because of the climate at the time. But there's an episode in The Next Generation when he's still the head producer, where Picard goes on about how being atheist is like a great cultural achievement for this one planet or something. And then by the time Voyager comes around, they're like full into like, hey guys, what if we had actual ghosts?
What if you had actual ghosts? Well, and also, like, in Deep Space Nine, the whole thing about, like, Bajoran religion.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
what if Bajoran gods were just straight up real?
What if they were just straight up real?
Okay. And actually, I mean, Deep Space Nine has great stuff in it, so I'm not gonna say that was a bad idea.
I love DS9. It's so good.
All right, we're gonna keep going with that though. And I really do appreciate the generosity because you don't have to. And
I appreciate the creativity.
Oh yeah, so much creativity.
In getting to my catchphrase.
Oh man, here we go.
Look, I could be a millionaire teaching evolution.
Oh, so what?
I'm gonna take a drink on that one.
Oh, honey, no!
Goodness, college professor. Okay, look, college professors are not poor, right? They're not gonna need food
unless
stamps.
They're an adjunct.
Well, okay, like a tenured professor, you're probably not gonna need food stamps or like WIC or anything like that, right? However, you're not gonna be buying a mansion on that money, right?
No.
You'll be okay. You'll be fine. You'll be upper middle class. Right? If you invest wisely, you might get to lower upper class and have like a summer home in a cool place.
Yeah, like one of the professors at our school who happens to be the guy that brings in the most money has two houses, one in Oklahoma, one in Colorado.
The wealthiest professor I know personally has a house in Texas and a house in and a house in Seattle. And he spends most of his time in Texas and then comes up to Seattle for the summer because it's nice in the summer. And that's like, and this is a person who actually, I don't even think he's actively teaching anymore, but like he was teaching
Yeah.
for like 40 years as a physics professor, and then he was investing. And sure, now he has a wine cellar in Washington and a wine cellar in Texas. Which is, that's better than a lot of people.
That's better than a lot, but it's
he's
not a
million.
millionaire.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact,
That's
actually,
like,
another
this
thing
guy,
is, I do
the
know a
professor I'm
millionaire.
thinking of, everyone uses the textbook he wrote. If that,
Oh, there
that's
you
like,
go.
Yeah, that's.
And the other thing is, actually, I know a millionaire, and while technically she owns a lot of properties, which is how she's a millionaire, only got one house, and it's nice, but like she's not like hanging out on yachts and everything. It's like a whole bunch of money is tied up in property, and when you value it all together, it's over $1 million. Yay!
Matthew, Mr. Powell, if you want to like teach evolution, right? If you I guess if you let's just say he wants to be Bill Nye the Science Guy, right?
Which is probably the most lucrative option for teaching evolution.
Yeah, that's like the most lucrative option. So you have to go back to school and get at least a master's degree, right? In a relevant field, right? In just any STEM field. And then, I don't know, go work at public access television for like 10 years?
Yeah, for like a decade. My goodness.
Right.
Where you're making nothing.
You're making nothing.
Public access is like, hey, my hobby is I make videos with my buddies.
Right, you might as well do
It's
YouTube.
worse. Yeah, it's worse than YouTube, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Like, I just made some money just now. You're not going to do that on public access TV.
Right. But that's because that's like Bill Nye was on public access. It was on PBS.
I believe
right?
that's how he started. Yeah, and then eventually he did pick up some paid shows, and now he has speaking fees and whatnot.
Right, but that's like a lifetime, and he's one dude, right?
Yeah. Who's the other one? Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's the like most of his stuff. Is he doesn't like make money teaching evolution. He's the director of the Hayden Planetarium, right? So that's a job. That's a full-time job.
He does bad takes on Twitter.
Yeah, he does do that. But he also has a podcast radio show, Star Talk. Okay. So that's actually also public access. But that's like, it's actually really cool. I got to go to a filming once, which was very cool.
Oh, neat. But yeah,
it's
evolution is
in the Hayden Planetarium. You know, it's a whole thing.
I'll just say this. It is technically possible that you could make millions teaching evolution, but it's far more likely that you're going to make millions being a football player. That's way easier. Yeah. It's way easier to get into the NFL than it is to become a millionaire evolution teacher.
Yeah. So I don't...
Orders of magnitude easier.
Yeah.
Because there's what, hundreds of NFL players?
Hundreds of NFL players.
And there's like 2 people who might be in the running for millionaire evolution teacher in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Pro sports is way easier to get into.
Our friend Matthew here lives in a strange world.
I know. I sometimes think to myself, like, what must it be like to inhabit the world that Matt thinks exists? Where, like, college professors are just rolling in big paleo dollars or something.
Yeah.
Actually, the paleontologists I know have to have night jobs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Rough.
The only way to make money in paleontology is to go into petrogeology and work as the paleontologist
for
oil companies. If you're actually doing research paleontology, you probably need a night job.
That's rough.
Yeah, I've known a paleontologist who was a paleontologist by day and then spent his nights bartending.
Oof.
Which, I mean, look, there was worse jobs than bartending.
There's worse jobs than bartending, but like I was looking at some stuff the other day about like what if I picked up teaching a class at like the local community college or like a smaller university than the one I'm at, you know? Oh my gosh, I would take a pay cut from my TA stipend. And I was like, oh no, absolutely not.
There's over 1,000 NFL players.
Over 1,000, and we can think of 2 people
who might be millionaires.
Maybe, possibly.
Right.
Yeah.
If they invested well, then they're probably millionaires.
What world do you live in,
right,
Mr. Powell?
Okay, we're gonna continue to find out what world he thinks he lives in.
Okay, excellent.
I can learn to speak words a certain way, or to say things how they want me to say them to make money. But you know what?
That's exactly what you're doing. What world do you live in?
I'm just taking a drink.
I'm drinking.
And Robert Madewell says, bartending can be fun. That's true. Look, I am not in any way knocking bartending. Out of all the jobs out there, it's like in the half that I think would be a good job to have.
Yeah.
I'm just not sexy enough. No one wants to tip their dinosaur bartender enough.
Also, that's got to be hard. How would you reach top shelf liquor?
I wouldn't. That's
with your
yeah
tiny hands.
Well, my arms have trouble going above like 1.5 meters off the ground. But they also have trouble going below a half a meter. So like I have a 1 meter range, and I have a big long tail that interrupts things. Yeah, it's a mess.
It's a mess.
Okay, here we go.
The truth is more bright than darkness, and I would have to be accountable to God for that.
I'm not even sure what you just said.
So I'm not going to go along with the flow.
Ramble.
They're like, well, you're just going along with what you've been taught all your life.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's take a drink for being right.
Sure are.
Mm-hmm.
Look, pretty much everybody out there is secular. We're the ones that are going against the flow, folks. And you know what? People say, well, don't you have peer pressure? No, I don't have peer pressure.
Okay.
You know, a guy came into my job one time.
You're an adult man.
Okay, look.
Who is trying to get you to smoke cigarettes behind the gymnasium at
Maddie,
28 years old?
that's probably not happening, but let's be fair. Everyone has peers, and all of them have social expectations of the people in their peer group.
Okay, fair. So how do you think the peers in his peer group expect him to behave?
Like he's doing right now. Because his peer group is other creationist preachers.
Yeah.
Right. His peer group is Kent Hovind, and Ray Comfort, and Kirk Cameron.
Honey, Mr. Matthew, you can be better than that. You really can. You can, honey.
Creation Myths points out that adjunct professorship is an okay side gig, but do not do it in place of a full-time gig. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
My dad actually did a fair bit of adjunct professor stuff, and given how much money it made versus how much time he spent on it, it was very clearly not a good option in terms of like main money maker.
Right, because you get paid per. Anyway, that's a whole. That could actually. I could rant for an hour about why adjunct positions are almost always bad.
Right.
There's like 1 or 2 cases where they're okay. But that's a different stream. That's a different conversation.
Someone whose name I'm not sure how to pronounce, but I'm going to go with our chat Mang CMG says, if Matt Powell were correct, then Dapper Dinosaur, Maddie, and Guts a Given would be rich, and Matt would be living on noodles.
Mm-hmm.
As it is, I'm excited when I realize that Amazon will sell me 15 pounds of grits for $12. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to disclose all the financial stuff, but like, yeah, it's much easier to make a living as a creationist.
Mm-hmm.
I just gotta smoke, man. He's an atheist. I just gotta smoke for my friends.
What?
I'm like, why? I'm like, do you like to smoke? He's like, no, but I gotta do it. There's so much peer pressure.
Oh, this is stories that didn't happen. We're taking a drink.
This is stories that didn't happen. Also, how often are you hanging out with 13-year-olds, Matt? That's not appropriate.
Asking them about their religious positions, apparently.
Right. And like not to say that any person's religious positions are like valid or invalid, right? That's not my place. But also, like, let's recognize that 13-year-olds have very undeveloped brains. And
oh, there are some religious positions I'm okay with saying are invalid, like creationism.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I guess I'm not here to. The thing that I won't do to Matt is the thing that he would do to me, which is I'm not here to say that anybody isn't a real Christian. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not here to do that. That's not my place. You know, your beliefs are between you and your deity, or lack thereof. Not my place to judge, right? Like, not my job. So that's what I meant, right? But like, nah, creationism is demonstrably false. You know?
Right.
I have no problem making fun of it, but I'm not like.
I'm not gonna tell Matt to go be an atheist.
Right. I have a lot of problems with a lot of what Matt believes. Mm-hmm. Right. even beyond the things that I don't think matter. I don't think like what you believe about the age of the universe is like that's a problem from a science standpoint, but from like a faith standpoint, I do not understand why this is a hill people will die on, right? Like I don't get it. I don't know. But I won't. I'm
Maddie
losing my
has
train of
stopped
thought.
having the words.
I'm out of words.
What?
I'm about to have to get Batman, my emotional support Batman, off his shelf.
Well, let's hear some more, Matt, while you work on words and maybe emotional support Batman.
All right, that sounds good.
Look, why don't I just start a peer group where we don't smoke? And
Yes, that's what you do.
That sounds great.
I'll take
Lovely.
a drink. Good job.
Good job, friends.
If your current peer group is pressuring you to do things you don't want to do and that are bad for you, get a new peer group.
Get a new peer group. Peace the fuck out.
I agree
Sorry,
with Matt on
that's
this
the
one. Now, let's see how he screws that up.
Yeah.
where we live for God. That's what I want.
Well, those two things don't go together, so that was dumb.
That was dumb. I'm drinking for dumb.
Lots of Christians smoke. Lots of non-Christians don't smoke. Lots of Christians don't smoke. Lots of non-Christians do. It does not correlate very well with your religion.
There's a world where like smoking is the lesser of two evils. You know what I mean? There's like an outreach program in Seattle that's like they give out free cigarettes to help people get off heroin.
Oh yeah, hey, I mean, look, heroin's gonna kill you soon. Cigarettes are gonna kill you in a few decades. So if you have to go from one to the other, I mean,
yeah, I know
it's not great, but it's the lesser.
Great.
It's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, it's a lesser. We live in the real world, and our choices are never black and white.
Right.
We are almost always choosing between the lesser of two evils. And like that's neither good nor bad. That just is what it is. I'm not going to judge somebody for smoking, right? Like, especially in a world where like we don't have appropriate health care. You know, if you're smoking as your coping mechanism for anxiety, right? Like,
look,
who am I to say
if your
what's
options
healthier?
are smoke and maybe die like a decade early, or have a complete mental breakdown? I mean, I get why smoking is the option, right? Like,
right? Yeah,
it's sort of like there was a study that I looked at. I didn't look in depth, but it was basically like there was a survey, and it turned out something like some ridiculously high portion of like U.S. males were like, yes, I would rather have a shorter life and eat red meat than live longer and not. Like, okay.
Well, yeah, that's also something that like drove me nuts in the Navy, because the Navy is all about tobacco cessation, right? Like, no, you shouldn't smoke or do dip or whatever. And I'm like, okay, but like they're really, really stressed, and you don't give them a lot of coping mechanisms or a lot of space.
It's all alcohol and smoking. That's it. Alcohol and tobacco.
All alcohol and smoking. And they want to be like, well, just exercise, and that can be your so that's like the answer for everything, right? Just like go run, you'll feel better.
When I come back from a 16-hour school day and I have to start it back over in 8 hours,
you're not gonna
I don't have time for a run. I don't have energy for a run, but what I do have time and energy for is a smoke and a drink.
Yeah.
So, look, there's a lot of stuff that in an ideal world people wouldn't have to do. But guess what?
But we don't live in an ideal world,
exactly.
So everybody can calm down.
Now,
right? Like,
if something becomes a bigger problem than, the problem that it's trying to solve, which does happen, then it's time to reassess. And ultimately, I'm not going to judge people for drinking or smoking. And look, if you think it's time to quit, I will encourage that. And if you have other options, I will encourage those, because many other options are better. Like, if you can cool off with like a video game or something that's less bad for you, then great. But like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you're evil because you smoke.
Right. Like, smoking isn't a moral issue.
No.
Right. It's not a moral issue, but I'm pretty sure Matt Powell comes from there's a great rhyme for evangelical boys. That's, what is it? We don't drink, smoke, chew, or go with girls who do. That's the rhyme.
Oh, that's really, really cringy.
Isn't that terrible? I hate it.
Goodness. I don't think I've ever
but I'm
dated
pretty
someone
sure
who
that's, like-
chewed, but I've dated a smoker. And I think everyone... well, no, that's not true. I have dated someone who didn't drink.
Yeah. But, like, drink or don't drink, I do not care. Smoke or don't smoke, I do not care.
Yeah.
Right? Like, those aren't moral issues.
No. They can become them if you let them, but in and of themselves, they are not.
Right. Like, sometimes you're going to eat McDonald's. Fast food isn't a moral issue. Right? Like, but these things are often presented as moral issues, you know? Anyway.
All right, here's more Matt.
Yeah, here's where I'm at.
They say, well, why are you speaking these truths so blatantly and straightforward? Because
No one has ever said that to you,
No
Matt.
one has ever said that to you, Matt.
I'm taking a drink.
No one's ever said that.
Robert Madewell says, I had a girlfriend who chewed... Okay, so look, I don't think you're bad for chewing, but I find it really gross in a way that I don't find smoking. So it's always come across as extremely unappealing in terms of, like, a partner. So, look, just the spit canister always grosses me out, and I can't deal with it. So that's why, for me, that's like a but not because I think you're a bad person, because I personally can't deal with that thing.
Yeah.
That's a me problem, not a you problem.
I want people to know what the truth is. I'm sick of people being lied to.
I'm just I can't. I can't.
Okay, buddy.
So there are no missing links. And Stephen Gould,
Just take a drink for complete random, no segue off into a different direction.
Well, he was talking about missing links, like, I mean, I guess in video time, that was like 3 or 4 minutes ago. For us, that was like an hour ago.
It's true, but then he started talking about other things, like segues, Matt.
What does that... Right, yeah. Yeah, you gotta work on your segues. But I think he came back, looked at his notes, and it said
this is
missing
where
links.
I'm supposed to be.
Oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. I went off on this tangent about children smoking, and now I've got to come back to reality. Either children smoking or adults dealing with peer pressure to smoke.
Yeah, in my entire adult life, I've never actually felt peer pressure to smoke. Even when in the Navy, I was on the smoke deck with people smoking. Someone said, "Hey, you want a cigarette?" And I said, "No, thanks." And they said, "Okay." And that was the end of that discussion.
Yeah, that's like, I've been to, like, when I was in college and was at like college parties, like, no one tried to force alcohol on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've anytime I've refused a drink, it's been like, oh, okay.
All right, cool. Can I get you something else? Like, you know, like, do you want a lemonade? I've got soda.
Right.
Like,
it's like, hey, there's still Coke that you could not mix with rum, I guess.
I guess. Like, that's a choice you can make.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, like, honestly, when people are offering you this shit, they're just trying to be polite. Like,
look, we're still
I
into
already
PG-13.
used my one F-bomb.
Yeah, but we're still well into the PG-13 area. All right, let's get some more Matt in.
Okay. Who's one of the top paleontologists in the world, said, and
at the time, that's probably more or less true. I'll take a drink. Gould was pretty well regarded. He was pretty prolific.
I quote, he said, "There are no missing links. The whole chain's missing."
Okay, so here's the thing. He did say those words. However, it was in a broader context in which he was talking about transitions between relatively low-level taxa, like the family or species level, whereas he was very well aware of transitional species between relatively higher-level taxa, and his entire endeavor with punctuated equilibrium was to explain why it is that at the microscopic level, right, where we're talking about, like, okay, this species and its sister species, we don't have good transitional forms for that. Why is that very often the case when we can find transitional forms between, like, say, non-vertebrate worms and actual vertebrates? Why is that a thing we can find? But it's hard to find the transition between, like, foxes and wolves.
Gotcha.
Right. So yes, it is hard to find that, and he did give an explanation that does explain a lot of it.
Because context matters.
Weird, right?
Weird.
Also, Stephen Jay Gould might be the most quote-mined person by young Earth creationists in the entire history of science.
Aw,
It's amazing.
poor baby.
He's rivaled only by Darwin, as far as I can tell. It's like
And
those
it's easier
two.
to quote mine Darwin because
Oh, yeah.
he was
Right in like the 1880s, yeah.
200 years. Yeah, he was like 150 years ago.
Yeah, it's... Oof. Okay, here we go.
So when they say, well, what do the scientists say, Mr. Powell? There's what the scientists actually say.
Yeah, when you take it out of context.
context?
I'm just going to take a drink.
Yeah.
Oh no, doggy noises.
Oh, hi, Pupper.
So a dog has become upset. Look, there's a chihuahua in this house. She barks a lot because she's a chihuahua, and that's just what they do.
Aw.
And look, I love her.
Aw.
She's great, but like sometimes I'm just like, you do not have to bark right now. You could just not do it, and nothing bad will happen. I promise.
My dogs aren't allowed in here because this is where my 3D printer is,
Ooh.
and it's a resin printer, and so they're not allowed in
That
here.
reminds me, I need to make a 3D sculpt of Kalis' fornication helmet.
Yes, you do. I would love to print that. I'm currently printing a Western town because I'm going to trick my whole extended family into playing Dungeons and Dragons with me
Ooh,
over Christmas because it's going to be cowboys versus zombies.
nice.
I'm very excited about it.
And also not nearly as problematic as Cowboys and Indians.
True. Yeah. No. Who wants to do that?
Yeah. Also,
We're just going to do cowboys versus zombies.
fun thing, by the time that the cowboy period, which only lasted for a few decades, came around,
Mhm.
like the Indian Wars were kind of done. Like it wasn't as like that trope is actually from like settlers in wagons who were attacked by Native Americans, and less the open ranching cattle driving culture of the Old West. So it's like a weird amalgam of tropes from actually different parts in history. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. Let's have some.
We're here for Matt Powell. Let's keep it.
Yeah, but okay, can you blame me for trying to delay the Matt Powell?
No.
Exactly. Here
Not
we go.
even a little bit.
Here we go.
Science is on our side. The Bible's on our side. And you know,
I don't think either of those things.
Neither is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither of those things
Let's
feels
take a
true
drunk
to me.
because none of that's true.
Oh, I'm sorry. Take a drunk.
Sure. You know what? Verb conjugation. Who needs it? Let's just all switch to Mandarin where you don't have to bother.
Needs it.
Isolating languages for the win.
For the win.
what? I don't believe the Bible because of science. And a lot of atheists will say, well, you believe that the Word of God is the Word of God because the Bible says it's the Word of God. So you got a circular argument there. Look, I don't care what shape the argument is.
Oh, I'm just going to take a drink for disregarding basic logic.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so here's the thing. A circular argument isn't necessarily false in its conclusion, but there's no way for you to know if it's true.
Yeah.
Right? So if I say, oh.
Well, what Matt would need to defend here is why the Bible is true to him, but other religious texts aren't.
Right. The Quran makes, if anything, higher claims about itself than the Bible does.
Right. So why, what standard, what objective standard are you applying to the Bible that doesn't apply to the Quran? Right? That would be, that's the problem with mythic literalism.
Oh, I figured it out.
Right.
The Bible's
What'd you
longer,
figure out?
so that makes it better.
Oh.
Which then, by extension, means that the Mahabharata is actually the real word of the gods.
Right.
Because it's, by the way, way longer than the Bible.
Yeah, so what, if you're going to go with this religious text is true because the religious text says that it's true, well...
They all seem to say that.
Yeah, so what makes the Bible special? And the real answer there is that because that's your faith. Right? And so... That doesn't work.
It's not an objective answer.
Right. Again, that's the root problem with mythic literalism.
Mm-hmm.
There's many problems with mythic literalism.
That's a big one, though.
That's a big one.
It's also why the presuppositionalist apologetics, which is what a lot of young Earth creationists are kind of drifting towards. Like Eric Hoven's doing a lot of it. Matt is doing it right now. The problem is that you can just make a different assumption. And since your entire presupposition was an assumption from the first place, and it's not a necessary one, no matter what you might think, I can make a similar assumption in a different direction, and now we're just at an impasse. Because
but like, I'd like to reiterate for Matt and like any of his fans who may one day listen to this, right? That if what you are going to stand around arguing is like, I believe the Bible's true, therefore we should care for the widows and orphans in their distress, to quote from the New Testament, right? Like I believe the Bible's true, and therefore I feel it is necessary to like that church service it was somewhere in Europe where they had a church service that lasted like 94 days without
because the police weren't allowed to interrupt it.
Because they couldn't interrupt, so they held it to protect a refugee family, right? Like, if that's what your faith is calling you to do, right? Like, that sounds great. Like, please do that.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the based version of Christianity right there.
Yeah, that's the thing. But like, if what all I hear from Matt when he preaches is like denial of science, which in this age of we're still living on, it is actually deadly, right? Like if your faith isn't and your belief isn't leading to caring for people, then what in the world was the point in the first place?
Well, instead, Matt's faith is leading him to advocate for genocide. So so like if there's one thing we could maybe all agree that like Jesus was for, it was for like caring for your neighbor. So if your faith doesn't lead you to do that, you know, then like you need to rethink what you believe. And here's the thing, my guy, like if you believed the earth was 6,000 years old, but your ministry was like caring for, I don't know, like you eradicated homelessness or have a soup kitchen or whatever have you, like no one's going to question you on it, because they might be like, oh, your beliefs are a little weird, but you're objectively doing good. Right. Like, here's someone who could have been malnourished, but now they're not. Okay, good job.
Now they're not. Great. Then I don't actually care what you believe about the age of the earth.
Yeah.
You know,
instead it's
then I don't
advocacy for genocide and scientific illiteracy.
Right. So that's why we're mad at you, buddy. That's why we do this. That's why we play this game, is because like your faith is causing you to do objective harm to your community in the world. And someone has to not let that stand.
Yeah.
The Bible has power. Never a man spake like this man. They say, well, that's not good enough. Okay, well, if truth is a real thing, which it is, they say, well, there is no truth.
I do agree that some things are true, and I'm being extremely generous, so I'm going to take a drink because I do think that some things are true. So good job, Matt.
Okay.
Did you just polish it off?
Uh-oh. Yeah, I did. It's fine.
We got full drunk Maddie going.
I'm not drunk. I'm happy.
Okay.
That true? Because if it's true that there's no truth, how can the statement be true that there is no truth?
You just like word games, my guy.
Yeah.
Like it's not even a point. That's just word games.
Mm-hmm.
They say, well, I can't be sure of anything. Well, you seem sure that you're not sure of anything else. That's for sure.
More
Mr. Agnostic.
Pun.
The agnostic people say, well, we can't have certainty. Well, you're certain of that. And that's all I know.
No.
Jeez.
Oh my goodness. Agnosticism doesn't even on its own say that you can't have certainty. It says, I don't.
And it even says, like, I don't know specifically whether or not a god or gods exist. Right? That's not like, I don't know if that gravity exists. It's not uncertainty about everything.
Yeah. It's, oh my goodness. How to misdefine every single word with Matt Powell.
Right.
And look, they say, well, you got a circular argument on your hands. How are you going to get your way out of this one? Look, I don't have to. If the Bible's authority was dependent upon my reasoning to give it authority, then my reasoning would be the final authority, right? But if the Bible is true, which it is,
Okay.
it should be its own authority. I shouldn't have.
Why is it true? Right? And why is it, and what do you mean by truth?
Look, here's the thing, right? What if I just say, hey, guys, I'm the authority on God and the history of the universe. It's just me. How do
Because
you know?
you're a dinosaur.
Well, no,
You've
it's
been
not
around the longest.
It's not even that. It's because I asserted it.
Oh, I see.
That's it. That's all I need to do. I assert that I'm the final authority on God, the universe, the meaning of life.
Yeah.
Which kinks are okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
just me.
everything.
Yeah. And it's true because I said it.
And the problem here is fundamentally that, like, Matt is speaking to people who already think the way that he does, right? Like, I don't know if he realizes this, but none of what he's saying would be convincing to someone who doesn't already think like this. So what he's very good at doing is reinforcing existing biases and existing beliefs. But he's not actually good at understanding even his own arguments, because he's not saying anything here. He's basically doing what a flat earther does, which is like, look at that, who like points at a plume of smoke and laughs with incredulity, without ever actually making a point. He's not made any points in the last like 5 minutes of this video, right? He's just been incredulous.
All right. Well, we need to start wrapping up, but we do have a super chat, so we're going to read that, and then we're going to see what Maddie's going to be up to, and we're going to see what I'm going to be up to. So, Helios575 for $5 says, Smoblin Mobbin, we will mob you with gobbo love and wholesomeness. We love Dino and Maddie. And
aw, thanks, team.
Thank you. All right, so, Maddie, what is coming up on Science Side Up?
Oh my goodness. My next video should be released on Sunday. I'm taking a few days off because it's Thanksgiving and I'm going to go see my family. But I should be finishing up my first law of thermodynamics series this week and then get back to Weather 101. I'm actually excited because now that we've done first law stuff, we can get into some nitty gritty of weather. We're going to learn how to read a skew-T diagram. We're going to learn what a skew-T diagram is.
Yes,
and then we're going to learn how to read it.
But is there maximum covariance?
I need to release that. I need to release my maximum covariance analysis video. So, team, I recently had my annual PhD seminar, which is where I have to like remind folks that I'm alive and have been doing research for a year. And so that's recorded, and so I'm going to upload it to my channel here in a couple days. So if you're interested in what I actually do as a PhD student in meteorology, that's going to be up soon. Fair warning, it's very much in science. I'm very much wearing my actual scientist hat, not science communicator hat, if that makes sense. So it might be a little dense. Anywho, and we're getting back to my scientists you should have heard of little series of shorts. Those are coming back soon. Those have been super fun.
I really enjoy those, yeah.
Yeah, they're really fun to do.
I mean, you did astronomy nuns, which is a thing I'd never heard of.
Right, but that was a whole thing. Right. Astronomy nuns was a whole thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, so for this channel, let's see. So Thursday there is going to be a video. Just because I have videos that are uploaded but haven't been released. So all I have to do is just schedule it. I don't have to do anything. I'll probably still be there in the chat, even if it is Thanksgiving in the United States. Hey, a lot of my viewers aren't in the United States, so they don't have a holiday on Thursday.
That's true, but I have to make a pie.
I bought a pie.
I'm making a purple sweet potato, black sesame miso pie.
Wow. Okay.
Really good.
I bought a small pumpkin pie, and I'm going to cook turkey, some mashed potatoes, some green beans. There's going to be I think there's going to be cranberry sauce. I don't know, whatever.
Nice.
It'll be fine. But yes, I will plan to be here for the next, I believe what I'm going to do is release the next Helping Cindy Lincoln video, which will be the first one that's scored. So there's going to be music.
Ooh.
Yeah. The back 3 of the 6 have music. Then Saturday, I'm going to be talking with Tim O'Neill, who runs the blog History for Atheists. So if you like history, or if you like people who take down really bad takes by internet atheists about history, you should come on for that.
Yay!
Because Tim O'Neill has a master's in history, and one of his hobbies is he's an atheist, and he is tired of the really bad takes on history that some atheists will put out there. So his entire blog is dedicated to correcting atheist mistakes on history. And as you guys might know, I've already done a video on that kind of topic around the Council of Nicaea, because there's a lot of really bad takes about the Council of Nicaea that are just really, really wrong from just an objective fact point of view, coming from atheists. Most Christians either get it right or just have never heard of the Council of Nicaea and have no clue. So,
I'm aware of the Council of Nicaea.
Nice.
Okay.
So yeah, that's on that is on Saturday. Now I have to look at a calendar. Okay, so
Ooh, Dapper, most importantly, Monday, I changed my lighting, is when
Yes.
Monday after Thanksgiving, we're back to D&D. If you guys want to watch me completely break from science, if you guys want to watch me DM and Dapper play a delightful dwarf artificer, as we're going to go to a secondary location, maybe, possibly, we'll finally leave the one village. Hopefully. That'll be on Monday.
That reminds me.
I'm excited.
It's on Cheshire Vic's
I've
channel.
got plans.
She's in the chat. Cheshire Vic, link your channel, because you got the wrench. So just link your channel so people would know where to go to see that. We're playing Guns, Magic, and Steel on the 29th. The 30th will be Jackson with Jackson. Jackson Weed is going to be back, and we're going to once again attempt to do the show that we failed to do, because for some reason, YouTube, I don't know if it was my computer for sure, or if it was YouTube, but they just weren't accepting my upload from OBS. So we just ended that early. So we're going to go back to where we were. You're going to once again hear Charles Jackson say that viruses can't acquire new traits, while we are currently living in a pandemic as a result of a virus gaining a new trait. So that's going to be fun. Let's see, Thursday, I don't know for certain. It's probably going to be Helping Cindy Lincoln, episode 5. And then the next Saturday might have to be another Answers in Genesis marathon debunking stream. Because, they keep copyright claiming stuff that's fair use. And I'm not okay with that. So what I usually do in response to that is just do it harder. Just do more of the fair use of that person's copyrighted material. So, yeah.
Let me know if you need help with that. I'm happy to.
I probably will. I might actually end up doing it a little bit later in the afternoon, because Dr. Dan Stern Cardinal expressed interest, but he can't do it at the normal time that I do Saturday streams. And I do already have an AIG video downloaded about genetics.
Ooh, he would be much better at genetics, but I can be there for comedic value.
I mean, that is valuable. These are This is an entertainment stream, right? Like, this is not a classroom. Yeah. So we're here to have fun. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. I mean, you guys were extremely generous tonight. I cannot express enough how much I appreciate that, because I would be doing this right now if no one super chatted or anything. And so, like, you could be getting this for free. Well, at least in the short term. But the fact that you went out and a lot of people super chatted, in some cases significant amounts, I really appreciate it. It really does help the channel keep going. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please do subscribe to the channel. And I'm just going to go ahead and show the end credits, where I thank all my patrons and channel members going at $5 or above dollars, because you guys help keep the lights on here. So, bye. I just want to take a moment to thank my channel members and my patrons on Patreon. They really help keep the lights on here. And I want to thank those pledging $20 or above, especially Bob Knob, Benthoven, Ian Chen, Chris Love, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bede, Pat L. Dennis, and Res Instance. Without the support of those whose names you see on screen right now, the channel simply wouldn't exist as it does now, and I certainly wouldn't be able to do 2 to 3 videos a week for over a year and a half now. If you would like to help support and make it so that this channel is something that can keep going, there is a link to join below the video, as well as a link to the Patreon in the channel description. If pledging money isn't right for you, please just hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and share my videos. that really helps my channel grow.